Today, Wednesday. Tignan mo, pinabibilis ko po ang week. August 20th, 2004. Dito po sa amin sa County ng San Diego, California, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, USA sa West Coast. And sa mga taga-East Coast po, kumusta naman po kayo? Mga 8:30 po sa inyo ng gabi. Sana po you are with us while having dinner o kung ano man po ang inyong ginagawa. Pakinggan niyo po kami. At saka yung mga kamag-anak natin dyan sa New Zealand, sa Australia, my friend from Houston. Hi, Mares. I'm sorry, Mares, I forgot to greet my lovely inaanak, Isabella. Happy birthday pala. Naku, August nga pala siya. Naku, napakagandang bata. Dalagang-dalaga na. At saka, ang aking friend sa Chicago, saka ang aking very nice batchmate sa Toronto, Canada. Ang sarap dito, no? Kasi you can greet your friends all over the world. At saka yung mga medyo hindi ko nakakausap, kumusta na rin po kayo sa inyo? At of course, ang ating inang bayan, mga 8:30 ng umaga dyan po sa Pilipinas. Kumusta po kayo? Ang nanay ko, nakikinig yan. Kumusta, nanay? So, good evening again ho sa inyong lahat. DJ X, maraming salamat po again. Alam mo, yan si DJ X, mabait talaga yan eh. Ini-rearrange niya pa tong aming studio ngayon kasi meron akong special visitor today. At saka ang aming sound system inayos again ng ating sound engineer na si DJ X! Sama naman na, pwede na ba ako sa pang-ID? XXXX! Okay, tama naman po. Na-practice na ako kasi ni Mr. DJ eh. Last week po, we featured destinations Hawaii, Makati, Philippines, at saka yung mga cruise lines dito sa San Diego. And then again, I was saying na meron po tayong special guest ngayon. So for the next hour, stay tuned po kayo dyan hanggang 6:30 po tayo. Palalampasin natin dapat ng konti. Medyo na-delayed ang ating telecast eh. So ngayon, dito po sa Radyo Filipino Amerika. Again, it's www.radio, R-A-D-Y-O, Filipino, F-I-L-I-P-N-O, Amerika, AMERIKA.com. So, samahan niyo po kami. We're on air. So, again, pag meron po kayong itatanong or you would like to join us dito sa on air, pwede rin po kayong mag-text, pwede rin po kayong mag-vlog o kaya sa ating chat box sa website or our phone number here if you want to call in at 619-649-0069 or text me at 619-729-0694. So, stay tuned po kayo. So ngayon, ang ipipicture po natin ay Zamboanga. Kasi nga dahil sa sinabi ko sa inyo.
And Basilan.
And of course, the Basilan province. Ayan. Sumasagot na po ang aking bisita. Better po yata i-introduce ko na. Ano ho? Kasi hindi ko na kayo isususpense. Ang mga kababayan, it is really with great pleasure na i-introduce ko sa inyo si Mr. Yusuf, Ashraf, Joey, Pamaran, Tugung. So, ang hometown niya ay sa Zamboanga City dito, at saka sa Basilan Province. So, he currently resides in Lancaster, California and have been here in the States for 15 years. Ito, masipag, 8 ang anak. So, all of them are here in the States and all of them are excelling academically, and one of them graduated as summa cum laude with honors, of course, and the other one is magna cum laude. Ayan. Sir Joey is a director on Risk Management Company, Unified Care Services, a professional health consultancy services based in Torrance, California. Alam mo, talagang dinayo niya po tayo dito kasi talagang very passionate ho yan sa kanyang mga beliefs at saka sa foundation of na i-share niya sa atin. Mamaya po i-share niya lahat yon. So, in his past occupation, he was also a regional legal officer, DSWD,
in Region 9.
In Region 9?
Yes.
Region 9, yeah. And Chief of Staff, Congressional District Office sa Basilan. And then, he had a Bachelor in Political Science and Bachelor's of Law in Silliman University. That is in Negros Oriental, Philippines. And of course, he's also a Certified Risk Management Specialist here at UC Riverside and Certified Worker Compensation Professional in University of Michigan. Alam mo, kaya ito, I'm really very proud to have him here kasi ito yung mga talagang proud tayong kababayan natin. So, Philippine Legion of Honor, nag-rank siya, rank of Legionnaire, it was granted by President Ramos in 1993, one of the highest civilian service award in the country, and it was given to him. Kaya, isi-share din po natin niya sa atin yun kung paano. And then, ang membership organization niya po meron siyang the Tugung Peace and Development Foundation, and he was also the past president of the Basilan World Organization. And he was just not the past president, in fact, he was a founder of the association, and he was the president since 2007 until 2013.
Yes.
Ayan, kaya ko po siya nakilala, one of the reunions, and he knows po ng blissful cruises. So, he was heading that association sa the Basilan, nung past chairman siya, he left like, what, 30K?
No, $20,000. Yes.
Yeah, $20,000 in the treasury. Kita nyo naman. And he is the proud son of Mr. and Mrs. Ulberg and Elnorita Pamaran Tugung. So, with my great pleasure, here is Mr. Joey Tugung.
Yes, thank you, Cathy. Thank you for having me in your, I would say, popular show. It's a pleasure to be here in San Diego. I have to drive all the way from Lancaster. I cannot resist your invitation. And not only that, I would like to also to meet with you, and not only that, of course, to share whatever thoughts, ideas, and plans regarding not only the immigrants in America, but as well as the situation in our country, particularly in the southern Philippines. Yes.
Kaya maraming salamat, Sir Joey, sa pagpunta nyo dito. Matagal na kami hindi nagkita nito kasi yun lang last na reunion nila. Was it in 2012?
I think that was in 2012.
Yeah, so
that was the third grand reunion that we had in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And we sought your assistance, and thank you so much for
and tell us about that. Kasi I was not there at the reunion. I know you had a very important guest, and
Yes.
What, about 500 people?
No, not necessarily 500. Worldwide, yung Basilan World Association, since 2007 when we started the association, we were able to come up with a membership of more than 500 in the association. But in that particular reunion that we had in 2012, there were at least more than 250 attendees worldwide. But of course, majority of them came from California. And the guest speaker that we invited during that special historical occasion was Bill Hunter. Bill Hunter used to be the executive director or head of the National Basketball Players Association.
Oh, okay.
So, that association, they have, funds set aside to help civic organizations, and one of them was, of course, our association. And because of his ties with one of the members, Norma Paz was cut. So, and convinced with the trust of the organization, because yung plano kasi ng organization is to help our countrymen, especially in Basilan. That's why it's the Basilan. So, he donated $20,000.
Wow!
So, where can you find an organization with the $20,000? So, when I left the organization, last year, in 2013, so we have a fund of at least $20,000.
Oh, wow. Kita niyo po naman yan.
Yes.
Sa mga listeners po na medyo hindi po nyo alam kung saan ang Basilan, and it's an island in Zamboanga?
Yes, ang Basilan, it's a very beautiful island. It's located in the southernmost part of the Philippines. It's more or less 1 hour from Zamboanga City. Kasi ang mga kababayan natin, ang alam lang talaga nila is Zamboanga City. So when I say Basilan, so I always connect that with Zamboanga City. The gateway to Basilan, of course, is Zamboanga. You have to take the plane, and then you have to take a boat or a ferry boat going to Basilan, which will take around 1 hour. Yes.
Sabi nila, Basilan Island daw, one of the most beautiful places on earth. In many ways, untouched by time and progress.
Well, that is true. That is very true. It's an island paradise. But as you know, through course of time, somehow it shifted. It changed the place because of the peace and order situation, and there are a lot of factors that has to be considered.
Alam mo, marami tayong i-cover Marami kasing, we have a lot to learn also from Mr. Joey. And again, we are globally. And naririnig tayo kahit saan-saan dyan, especially siguro your people in Zamboanga and in Mindanao.
Yes.
So sana po kikinig din po kayo dyan. So, tell us about your journey coming here to the States. When you were you were serving as a congressional district in Basilan, in the congressional district office in Basilan.
Right.
So what year was that?
I guess that was in the term of my mom ended. She only served for one term, and I think it ended in 1996. I'm not really sure, but she served one term as representative of the congressional district of Basilan. So that was the last position that I had as chief of staff for office in the district. And so in 1999, my family and I decided to travel to America, to look for greener pastures. And I have to admit, na nahihirapan din tayo because, I have 8 children and I want to give them a good future. And because of the peace and order situation and economically, I cannot also support entirely my family. So we decided to migrate. And true to form, yung title ng show mo, ang Paglalakbay. Yeah, it was actually a journey. It was not easy, Cathy, to come to America. Just to give them an idea, coming to America, it's not easy. When you arrive here, it's not a land of milk and honey. That's what they think. You live the American dream where you can immediately have a car or a house. You have to work on it.
Of course.
Okay. Now, with all the credentials that I have and all the experience that I have, when you carry that with you to America, of course, it will help. But you have to start somewhere else. You cannot just be immediately placed in position, an executive position. And ito, masasabi ko sa'yo, it was really a journey. You know why? I'm a law graduate and I have all this experience in the Philippines. I started as a food server, a dishwasher.
Really?
Okay? Yes. Receiving a salary of $6.75. But through patience, perseverance, and discipline, and with the end in sight, for my children to succeed, to have a good life, I grew up in the ranks in the company. So within a period of at least 2 or 3 years, the owner of the company, who is a Filipino, Mr. Emmanuel David, I love him and the family. It's a family-owned business in skilled nursing facilities. Most of them are in California. They own at least around 18 facilities, I would say. And we provide professional healthcare consultancy services. So, looking at my resume and my enthusiasm, my passion in the area of human resource and risk management, so ang ginawa niya, he lifted me up, he promoted me. So, until I reached the pinnacle of being the director for risk management, and we have around 4,000 employees in that regard. And then he also sent me to school, and that's why I earned a certificate in workers' compensation as well as a risk management specialist. So, that's the journey. It's not easy. I had some difficulties also trying to adjust with, the culture in America, including my children. And I'm so blessed with my children that they were able to adapt with the kind of life that they have here.
Were they all born here?
No, all of them actually pinanganak sila sa Pilipinas.
Oh, you were married when you came here?
Ay.
Sorry mga listeners, hindi ko po talaga masyadong kilala si Joey. Kaya we're just knowing each other on air. Kaya tayo pong lahat. We're knowing him.
Actually, Cathy, that's the purpose why we have this interview. It's not only who wants to find about my life, but as well as our radio listeners. I would like to share with them.
Yeah.
It's an inspiration, an inspiring story that I have. And so, yung anak ko lahat, when they came here, they were already, I would say, the youngest was at least 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, okay.
And the eldest was, I think, 12 or 13 years old.
So they are also linguistic? Do they also speak Zamboangueñan? And then Tagalog and then English?
The three of them, they speak the dialect, Chabacano, and also Tagalog, and also Bisaya. But the rest, they do understand ang language natin in Tagalog, but they cannot speak anymore the dialect. And that's why I always advise our immigrants that comes to America. I always tell them, we should speak to our children in the dialect.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we just continue talking in English, tendency they're going to to lose track of their origin.
Yeah.
So nakakahiya, you know, when they say, oh, taga Zamboanga ako, taga Basilan ako, and they don't know how to speak Sama, you don't know how to speak Tausug. So these are the dialects that we have, the Muslims in Southern Philippines, and they don't know how to speak Chabacano.
Di ba influence pa kayo ng Peru, no? With your dialect?
No, not Peru, Spain. Of course, we were under Spain for 300 years. We were a colony of Spain.
Kaya mix, no? Mix Spanish, Peru, and then kaya
Latin America, Latin America, because that was also the world was divided into two in the past, right? Spain and Portugal coming in with the sword and the cross, and so what we have in Zamboanga is broken Spanish. Okay, we don't normally use the verbs, you know, or as you know, all of these things, but most of the verbs that we have is tied up with the Spanish language. So it's easy for us to understand Spanish, and it's easy also for us to understand the Mexicans, you know. Alam mo naman sa workplace dito, marami mga Hispanic. So it did not take me that time to understand their language.
Alam mo, yan ang beauty ng Radyo Filipino Amerika. Kasi hindi lang tayo, not just because we are here in the States and we just speak English, kaya Taglish tayo, di ba, DJX?
Yeah, kailangan talaga. We should have construct of our connection with the country. Yes.
And then some of our guests and most of our visitors here, sometimes they don't really speak in Tagalog. Kaya nagiging kami, translator di ba, DJX? Ngayon, alam mo, itong si Mr. Joey, marami talagang isi-share yan eh. I know a little bit of the background, pero hindi ko talaga masyadong alam ang talagang story. I wanna hear more about your dad and your mom, especially your dad. So maybe his dad is deceased, but he's have this such a journey that will his legacy will live on. So tell us more about it.
Well, ako naman, I'm very proud. Just like any children for that matter, we are very proud of our parents. And I'm one of them. I'm very proud of my late father and as well as my mom. Number one, being old as well. I have siblings also, a sister and a brother. And all of them are actually in the United States. My youngest brother is based in Virginia, and my sister next to me, she's in Glendale, California. Okay, look. Now, my late father, he came from a poor family in Tawi-Tawi. He's a Muslim. Kaya I'm in a unique situation to tell, well, I'm both a Muslim and a Christian because yung late father ko is a pure Muslim. And my mom is a pure Catholic from Basilan.
Okay.
So what we have here from Tawi-Tawi and Basilan, and they met in Zamboanga. It's a lovely story. Okay, they met. And I reap the benefit. Yeah, I reap the benefit of, you know, who they are. Okay, so I'm a Christian. I'm a Muslim. My religion is Muslim. I speak the dialect of my late father, Sama, Tawi-Tawi. And I also speak the dialect of my mom in Zamboanga and Basilan, which is Chabacano. And I also speak the dialect of my late father at Tausug. Now, my father is considered to be a prominent political leader during his days. That was during the early 70s up to the mid-80s. Now, he started as a city councilor in Basilan. Kasi Basilan at that time was a city. It was a chartered city. Okay. And it was converted into a province, divided into 7 municipalities in 1973 at the height of martial law. Okay? Because it was already martial rule. So, naging city, after city councilor, when it was converted to province, he became the first municipal mayor of Isabela. And after that, he became the deputy governor of Basilan. And then he was invited by then Admiral Romulus Paldon, the late Admiral Romulus Paldon, to the office of the regional commissioner, where he became the executive director. Alam mo, itong ORC is...
Sorry, this is my grandpa.
Who?
Romulus Paldon.
Really?
Oh, kita mo
It's a small world.
That's my grandfather.
He's a very dignified person. My late father was a protege of Admiral Espaldon.
Wow.
And we love him, and we really like him. He's highly respected. And
up to your folk.
hanggang dito.
The Navy knows him very well.
Yes. And he was the person that was able to unite. Talking about Admiral Espaldon, and that's where my father somehow was guided with his political philosophy when managing the affairs of government. Because Rin Edwin Espaldon actually was born, raised, and grew up in Tawi-Tawi.
Yes.
Yung parents niya they were educators. So they moved to Tawi-Tawi, and at that time, when President Marcos found out that Admiral Espaldon is from that area, he is the only person that can somehow settle the scores at that time. Kasi alam mo, it was not yet the MNLF, mga panungunan, yung mga Barakuda, and then we have the Ilagas, at the height of the 70s.
Oh, I see.
So my father, his political life actually was more or less weaved or intertwined with the late Admiral Espaldon. So he was invited, he became the executive director of office of the regional commissioner. Now, if we're talking of the current autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao, the current that we have, the forerunner, yung nagsimula talaga that gave the idea of autonomy, okay, it actually started during the time of President Marcos. Kasi he wanted to settle the rebellion, the Muslim rebellion in Mindanao. So they came up with the ORC, and my father was the executive director, which is the second highest official in Region 9. And then there was an election. My father won as an assemblyman, and they had the regional executive council, or the lupong tagapagpaganap ng Pook. So my father became the highest chief executive, or in short, he was the little president of Region 9. Okay, and at the time when
Were you still at school back then? I mean,
I was already in my
Like you were
high school and college years. Yes.
Where you were already involved in politics and knowing.
Yeah,
all
I actually grew up in a political family. Okay, when I was still, I would say 8 or 7 years old, and my father was already the city councilor in Basilan. So it's 24 hours. So I was introduced to that, and I love the passion of my late father in helping people. Because service to the people is really, these are good deeds that any religion for that matter, God will always recognize. So yun na nga, naging little president siya, Regional Executive Council, dupong tagapagpaganap ng Pook, and then we had the 1986 revolution. Okay?
Yeah.
And he was taken by then the late President Corazon Aquino, to my understanding, to represent Region 9, to run for senator. Okay? But unfortunately, he was assassinated in Manila. Okay? And I knew that it was politically motivated. And so, my mother took over the position of my late father. So,
What year was that? When
he was assassinated in November 22, 1986. Okay, that was at the height where, there was already, Corazon Aquino already took over the reins of government. It was a revolutionary government. So yung nanay ko pumasok, took over the position. And after that, there was an election. So my mom ran for Congress. And she won. So by and large, I live in an environment where public service is on top of our agenda in life. And it's the same, in our blood. And it's the same thing that I've been inculcating by my children. I said, you don't have to be to have a political office or to be in a political position to help people. You can do it in such a fashion where, in any ways, you can do that. So, Cathy, yun ang ginagawa ko. I never held any political office, but what I'm doing is more of like a politician without an office, but helping people.
Maybe in the future.
Who knows? It's a matter of destiny. In God's time. Okay?
Kaya mga listeners, yung social media dyan, pwede na tayo mag-gather ngayon. Mga followers.
But it's like this. It's not easy to be in politics. There are two types of politicians. One is with all their heart, they want to make a difference and serve people. And the other politician is for gainful employment. And that is where we have this kind of politicians who are corrupt. Okay? They are in the position to aggrandize themselves in power and to make money. And so we don't like that kind of politicians.
But unfortunately, they have too many around.
Yeah, of course. In the Philippines, we know that.
Di ba meron siyang foundation, the Tugung Peace
Foundation.
and Development Foundation?
Yes. So as a result of that, in tribute to my late father's what's this contribution, his help to the people of Mindanao, because he's a uniter. Okay, he preached peace and unity among Christians and Muslims. So, as a tribute to my late father, in 1987, after his demise, after he died, we created the Tugung Peace and Development Foundation Incorporated, for his namesake. So in other words, whatever trust that he had during his lifetime, the family, meaning my mother and the children, continued with that. But we are not a big-time foundation where we dole out money. We are not a philanthropic institution where we give a lot of grants. No, we are not. Actually, it comes from our own pocket.
But you still help students, you still give
Yes,
scholarship, leadership award.
Yes, yes. And so we are more on the educational aspect because yung tatay ko naman, ang sabi niya, not necessarily the only, but one of the main wherewithal to free our country from poverty and from ignorance is through education.
Yes, that's the best.
So that's why we have scholars, okay? Because when you have scholars, we build them to become leaders of their community. So yung trust namin is more on education. That's why we have scholars. I'm even proud to say that some of them are professionals. They're lawyers, doctors, engineers, architects. And so right now what we have at least 8 scholars, just a modest number. What is important, we are out there helping our people. And we also recognize our teachers. Kasi ang late father ko and my mother, actually, they're both educators. Yes, they're both educators. And not only that, my grandfather was a principal. Okay, so we understand the plight of our teachers. So that's why we have this recognition of teachers. We call it the Modest Award. Most outstanding district elementary and secondary school teacher.
Ayan. Kita mo naman, Nay, ha? Proud na kayo niyan. Ang lola ko kasi teacher. Ang kanyang claim of fame, educated daw siya ng mga Americans, pero 8th grader lang siya. Naging teacher na siya.
Because at that time naman,
my mom and my aunt.
At that time naman, at that time, yes, the curriculum at that time, even yung mga bachelor's degree, so it was only 2 years. It was more or less associate. Now, don't you know what has happened in our country now? So that we can live up to, the level of competition in other countries. Yung pa natin ngayon, elementary up to high school, is not only 10 years. They added 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Because it's now 12 years.
But I thought it wasn't implemented yet, but we have a lot of programs now that is geared for international students.
Yes.
Because we have a lot of students now in our country because it's cheaper, especially coming from Asia.
Yeah,
it's not just because it's cheaper, but the quality of education is
yes,
from our country. So they really revamped the program back home. That's what I've been hearing.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think they already implemented it. They already snowballed it. Yeah, and so at least we can come up with quality, graduates. This time we have the 12 years. Just like in America, look, we have 12 years. We have middle school, and they go to high school. Yeah.
Kaya mabilis din mag-adapt ang mga Pilipino here when they come to America. Pero of course, it's not, hindi mabilis in the sense of literal. It's mahirap din to adjust, but at least we are accepted and we're flexible sa mga iba-ibang environment because of our education back home.
Right. I totally agree with you, Cathy. If I may add into that, okay? Our country compared to other Asian countries, we are more, we have advantage compared to them because of our English literacy.
Yes.
Okay, and we are talented, okay, and we are intelligent. That's why we can compete with them when we migrate to other countries. In fact, employers love to have Filipinos because we are industrious, we can communicate, and we are creative. Okay, so that's why we are proud to be Filipinos.
Yes,
I'm proud to be a Filipino.
Mga listener, marami po tayo again, sabi ko sa hindi ko cover, baka nga mangyari yan baka sa next week, si Mr. Joey ulit ang aking bisita because marami pa tayong cover. Pero I'm just gonna take a few minutes break and we'll be right back. Huwag po kayong aalis, Radyo Filipino Amerika. Salamat po. Anyway, mababalik po ako kay Mr. Joey.
Okay.
Si Sir Joey po, nagkaroon po yan ng award. And this the highest accolade award na invested to him noong 1993.
Yeah.
Ano nga, you take us to that journey. I know there's a lot of touching situation in your hometown, and I know it was about kidnapping.
Right.
So, paki-share mo nga po sa atin, sir.
Well, I'm proud, but at the same time, I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed with, not necessarily with the award, but what I did. Itong Philippine Legion of Honor Award, this was given by then President Fidel V. Ramos. Because at the time, during the early 90s, Basilan is known to be a kidnapping lair. Okay, it's a haven for the kidnappers. It's a unique place, an island, where the military can just easily come in and rescue the hostage. Okay, the kidnapped victim. So there were at least 8 kidnapped victims, and one of them is an American citizen. His name is Brother Agustin Frasha. Okay, but most of them are locals, rich people. Okay, like the Biel family and the son, and we also have the Barandino family, a prominent clan also in Basilan. So anong nangyari at that time, they had difficulties in trying to negotiate with the kidnappers. Ito na yung mga some of them were with the MILF, some of them are with the Abu Sayyaf group. So because of the respect that they had for my late father, so I had this unique position was able to communicate with them well and to have the kidnapped victims released. So succeeding yon, 8 kidnapped victims, okay, including Father Blanco. At that time, he is also an American citizen. So as a result of my service that I gave to the country, because it was a risk. Actually, even my family, they were so worried because I have to travel, to trek. I have to go up to the mountains.
And you risk your life.
Of course, you have to risk your life. What if you yourself will be the kidnapped victim? What if you will be caught in a crossfire? Okay? So mahirap talaga ang nangyari. Pero ginawa ko yon dahil sa pamilya nila. I don't want them to go through the agony of their loved ones being in the hands of these kidnapped victims. And not only that, for the image also of our country. President Ramos, we are one of his loyal followers, and we want the country to have a very good image. So I risked my life and went up there and secured the release. So it was successful. So as a result of that, not only President Fidel V. Ramos invited me, extended rather that award. So I'm very proud of the award, but at the same time, I feel bad for our island province. It's a beautiful island paradise, and yet it has negative perception coming from other provinces and cities. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pero quote ko lang to, I don't know who quoted this, sabi na lang nila, many cling to the God's promise that He will be one day soon cut off their enemies and bring an end to the bloodshed, fear, violence that had plain caused trouble their beautiful land for far too long. So, babalik na, tsaka sabi nila, di ba, na weekend naman na yung mga Sayap doon.
Yeah.
Before they were strong.
Right. The only way to cure the lawlessness, the criminalities, the terrorism in the southern part of the Philippines, I should know my politics in that area, is through socio-economic development. They live below the poverty line, and they should be given the opportunities. Now, the autonomous government that we have, the ARM, is one of the medium in order to erase, if not eliminate, lawlessness, kidnapping, and banditry. And the comprehensive agreement on Bangsamoro, which was recently signed by President Benigno Aquino in March 27 of 2014, just this year, with the MILF. Well, there are a lot of critics regarding this agreement that was entered between the government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF. We have this. We always have this mindset that somehow one day our country will be peaceful, especially in that part of our country in southern Philippines. We hope that there will be lasting and enduring peace. So we are coming up with structures, with systems, giving them full autonomy, giving them the opportunity to manage their resources, okay, the Moros, for the Muslims, giving them the natural resources, because natural resources is so rich in that part of the Philippines. So hopefully itong comprehensive agreement on Bangsamoro will pave the way for peace, giving the Muslims the opportunity to be self-reliant and self-sustaining politically and in the fiscal matters. So no matter what, we hope, okay, hope springs eternal. That's what they say.
Diba,
One day, one time, there will be peace.
Yeah, meron daw kayo seaweed industry, sardines, and then at one point, nandun ang BP Goodrich, di ba? Tsaka yung big corporations na Hans Menzi.
Yes.
Then there's progressive naman to dahil ang mga malls and mga buildings na bago.
we have. Of course, we adapt with changing times. Okay, we are already in the 21st century. Hindi naman tayo backwards doon sa lugar namin. We have internet, we have text and
Sino
everything.
na ba mayor doon?
Sa Zamboanga, it's Mayor Ben Climaco. And then
how about in Basilan?
In Basilan, we have two cities in Basilan. In Isabela, which is the capital town, we have Mayor Cheryl Akbar. And in...
Siya yata yung nagsabi na very safe naman daw doon. And approximately only 80 bad elements only around.
Well, it's easy to say.
O baka
the fact is...
Pero I was told na meron na daw, he allowed US armed forces to be there? Be around there?
Well, we have the visiting forces agreement, the BFA, and so we have we call it the Balikatan, where we have a joint military exercise with the United States military and our own local Philippine military. They have this joint training exercises how to combat terrorism, because terrorism is global in scale, and at the forefront of that is of course the Americans, and they would like to to cut off, not to allow global terrorism. So in the southern part of the Philippines, we have the Abu Sayyaf group, which is considered to be a terrorist group, which is somehow linked with Al-Qaeda and the Islamia in Indonesia. So that's why we have those. So we are happy, we are glad that we have the Americans helping us, and we were just so fortunate that we are in that part of our province. Yeah.
O sige, kausapin mo pa ulit ang iyong mga kababayan, Sir Joey, bago tayo ma-off the air. Kung anong gusto mong message na i-convey sa kanila, I'm sure na kikinig sila. Go right ahead.
Well, of course, there are only two things that I can say. Okay, for those Filipino immigrants in United States, we have to be one and united. I work in an environment where there are different nationalities and races, and they are so united. So how I wish that the Filipino in America will also be united. If there is a cause that we should advocacy that we should fight, we should all be united and one. We should give a good image to our country. Now, insofar as our country is concerned, we should be united. We should help the government in terms of the economy, in terms of unity, in terms of improving the peace and order situation. There are a lot of things. Now, in my case, Cathy, as I've told you, if I am here in America, kung nandito ako, it's because of my children. I want them to give a very good future. Even it does not mean that in the Philippines they don't have a good future, but it's an option. I'm just so lucky that I was given this opportunity by God for them to be able to come here. But once natapos na sila, once they're done, I will return back to the Philippines. And I'm looking at within the next 10 years, I want to live with our people, in our community, help our people. Every year, Cathy, umuwi ako. And I see...
But you're helping them naman even you're here.
Yeah, even though I'm here. But better still, if I'm going to sleep with them, eat with them, dream what they dream, hope what they hope. And not just lip service, but do some heavy lifting, use my arms, use my brains, and lead our people.
Do the legwork.
Yeah, do the legworking. Oo. Kasi mahirap naman sa bansa na sa Pilipinas. Well, economic indicators will show that the economy has improved. But there is no trickle down economics where it went down to the poor people. Marginalized pa rin ang mga tao natin. Okay, so the disparity of the rich and poor in the Philippines is so wide. And unlike in America, the middle class in the Philippines, we don't have such thing as the middle class. It's either you're rich or you're poor. Because if we have a strong middle class, then the country will be better.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they're considering now middle class those people that has relative abroad. And then back in the days, like 70% of the Filipinos are like really in poverty.
Well-
Then only is those really rich.
Well,
Hindi tayo middle class, overseas daw tayo.
it
Madala
is
tayo dollars.
and some
Di ba, Gino?
Yeah, that I somehow agree with you, but not totally agree with you, okay? The reason why our country economically is doing good is because of the remittances. Don't you
Yeah,
know that we
yeah.
remit at least $21 billion?
Yeah, it's because of that.
And not only that, the infrastructure that we have, why our economy is strong, more or less, is because of the remittances. Second, it's because we are consumer driven. Okay, that's why it stimulates the economy. And third, of outsourcing.
Yeah.
We have cheap labor, and all of this call center, we are good in speaking in English, etc., etc. So this somehow contributes to the economy, but there is still joblessness, underemployment, unemployment. So we were not, hindi pa natin na-bridge ang gap niya.
Oo, at saka lakas ng discrimination doon.
And the reason why...
Pag 35 years old ka na, ang hirap maghanap trabaho.
You know, it is
Nasa
story.
newspaper pa yun.
Yun na nga,
It's so funny.
It's funny.
35 years old and above need not to apply. Oh my God.
That's why...
Buti na lang forever 21 ako.
Right. That's why, Cathy, it's alien, it's foreign to our countrymen. When we talk of discrimination or sexual harassment, that's my line. That's what I do. I'm a risk manager. I avoid litigations in that areas. In the Philippines, all of these protected categories like age, disability, pregnancy, leave of absence, etc., etc., they don't have that kind of thing in the Philippines. So that's why if you're telling me that there is middle class, there is none because
There's
of
none.
the political, economic, and social structure does not pave the way. Tingnan mo naman si Noy Aquino up to now. There are a lot of bills that he has to pass. That's why I am amazed, I am surprised why he's entertaining the idea to amend the Constitution to extend his term. When there are a lot of things in the remaining 2 years of his term that he needs to work. He made these social promises to our people in his inaugural addresses, in his campaign promises. Hanggang ngayon hindi pa niya nagawa yun. Like the antitrust bill. The reason why wala tayong middle class is because of the monopoly, cartelized monopoly of people, political patronage. We have to break that, the dynasty that we have, and the endemic corruption. We have these high-profile politicians now in jail. How about in the bureaucracy? There are a lot of corrupt people. You know, so I would say there are a lot of things that we still have to do. You know, in our country. So in one way or the other, let's not be discouraged. On our own little way, when we go home to our town, we can do some good things for our people. Just like giving blood to Red Cross, go to Red Cross and then donate your blood.
Yeah.
I mean, that could help. Okay?
And to
So-
some community service organization like my Rotary.
Right. So we don't have much time. I would love to talk a lot, a lot of things.
Ay, itutuloy natin yan. DJ X,
Ano yun?
tatawa ka ba sa joke ko?
Anong joke?
Kasi masyadong seryoso talaga pagka pinag-usapan ng Philippine politics.
Tingnan natin.
Tingnan natin kung matatawa ka.
Okay.
Sige na, bibigyan mo ako ng time.
Okay.
Okay.
Sige. Para tuloy ako na unang tatawa kasi baka hindi kayo tumawa. Sige na. Ano daw, sabi, the execution joke. Baka nadinig nyo na to eh.
Sige nga.
So anyway, there were 3 men, 1 Frenchman, an Italian, and a Filipino.
Okay.
They were condemned to be executed. So their captors told them that they had to have the right to have a final meal before execution. So the Frenchman, they asked the Frenchman, "What do you want? What he wanted? What meal you wanted?" And then the Frenchman just said, "Oh, good French wine and French bread." And he requested for that. And then they gave it to him. And then they executed him. And then the next one was an Italian. So he says, "Okay, just a big plate of pasta," said the Italian. And they brought him the big plate of pasta and they executed him. And then here comes the Filipino. And then the Filipino, "So what do you want?" "Big bowl of strawberries," said the Filipino. Yun na lang, strawberry, hindi mangga. Strawberry. Tapos sabi nung But they aren't seasoned, so I'll wait.
Wise.
Ayun, Pinoy yan, Pinoy.
Wise and wise.
So do not race in the journey. It can be harmful to you. Journey enjoyments are better and great for life. Ayan, hindi akin yun. So ngayon, 1 minute na lang ba tayo, Mr. DJ? So, oo nga maganda ang ating tinalakay ngayon. Sana marami tayong, maraming nakinig sa atin at nabigyan natin ng mga, really vital information and also had shared a lot of insight from our guest today.
Yeah.
Kaya kung gusto mong magpaalam sa ating mga listener, nasabi mo babalik ka.
Yeah, feel free, Cathy, anytime. I would love to be in your show. It's not about me, but it's about our country, our people, our community back in the Philippines. And not only that, but as well as here in America. I would love to share my thoughts. Now, there are a lot of things that I can discuss about the workplace in America and about back home. So anything, if you want my knowledge or thoughts about that, humbly I can share that with you. I'm not an expert, but more or less I'm familiar with all of these topics.
Maraming salamat again na pinaunlakan nyo at nagpunta kayo dito. And again, maraming salamat sa iyong support. You're not just supporting me, of course you're supporting the Radio Filipino Amerika and all our listeners globally. Sana po ay napaglingkuran namin kayo ngayon. So, ito po ano ba yung background music mo pagka nagpapaalam na ako? Babalik ka rin. Si sweetie ko, I have a 19-year-old boy na papasok na siya sa college sa Monday. Kaya good luck na lang at saka sa mga parents ho na with the same situation na magpapa-college na.
Right,
Kaya medyo, oo nga.
Ako, 4 sa atin sa college.
4 na yung college.
And then there are a lot of my friends, they PM me asking for assistance. I said, look, I cannot help you this time kasi 4 na sa koleyo. And we're not talking of college in the Philippines, we're talking college in America.
Oo, kaya
You know how
actually a lot of
expensive it
people
is.
are having their college degree back home.
Right.
Ay, Kuya Eddie, dumating na po si Kuya Eddie. So, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Ito po again ang inyong amang
Thank
ikot, si Cathy Tuazon-Williams. Nagpapaalam po until Wednesday, same time, same website, dito po sa Radyo Filipino Amerika. Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat and have a blissful journey. Good night!
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.